Hey, it's Chuck Armstrong with Loudwire Nights, and this is Loudwire Nights On Demand. We recently hung out with Jonny Hawkins of Nothing More. We talked about their new album, Carnal, their upcoming tour with Wage War, and much more. This first aired on Monday, April 15th. Here we go. Well, since they released their debut album in 2004, Nothing More have become, I'd say, one of the strongest bands in modern rock. For the first several years of their life, they were truly an independent band, releasing 3 records on their own. And then after doing the same with their self-titled album that came out in 2014, which, if you're doing math, man, that's 10 years ago, they began to draw even more attention to what they were doing. And here we are in 2024, celebrating Nothing More's latest song, If It Doesn't Hurt, and their massive tour with Wage War. And helping us celebrate all of that tonight is founding member and frontman for Nothing More, Jonny Hawkins. Jonny, thank you so much for hanging tonight, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the great introduction.
Yeah. What goes through your head when you think about all that, man? Like, you know, launching in 2003, first album in 2004, 20 years ago, the self-titled 10 years ago. Like what runs through your head, man?
Making me feel old, man. God, it's been a hell of a journey. Cause I mean, I started this band in some form in 7th grade. So if you can imagine, since then I've been plotting and working towards being one of the biggest rock bands in the world. That was my goal, even at that age, you know? So it's been a long journey with a lot of twists and turns. And, you know, I was the drummer for years and years. So it's even funny looking back to even see that I'm the singer. You know, I still feel like a drummer at times.
Yeah. Is it true that you and Mark, the guitarist, met at, or you kind of started forming this bond at church camp?
Yeah. Yeah. We were at a church camp. I was going into 7th grade that summer, and yeah, he was like 2 years older than me. So he was with like you know, that's like a big gap when you're that age, right?
For sure.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember asking him if he wanted to jam with me sometime on the weekends, and he was in front of his friends. So he was like, no, because he would have been so uncool if he said yes. But then he called me a few weeks later and he's like, let's jam.
That's awesome, man. I love that. Is that still your goal for Nothing More, be the biggest rock band in the world?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously that's a little subjective, you know, but in some form, join the ranks of the greats. That's my goal.
I love that, man. So listen, let's get right into it, man. I got to say congrats on the new song, If It Doesn't Hurt. So happy we're playing it on Loudwire Nights. And, you know, I just got to say, I mean, it's heavy, man. It's an intense song. And not that you guys haven't made heavy music before, but this seems like it's on a different level. I don't know. There's just something about it that it's relentless, man. And I love it. What was influencing you or guiding you as you guys made this track?
God, I've been sitting on that song for like a year and a half now, and I've just been dying to get it out. So it's so happy to see it out in the world and reacting and connecting with people finally, because a lot of people, you know, don't realize that sometimes we have these songs for a while where we're just, you know, like itching to get them out. So that's the hardest part, you know, emotionally. So it's cool to see that it's out. And even last week I got blown up on my phone by people because I guess WWE used it for like the WrestleMania promo or something. I didn't realize how many people watch wrestling because a lot of people were seeing it. So that was like really exciting to see it getting used for something, and a lot of new fans and people getting turned on to Nothing More.
When you've been sitting on the song for a year and a half, and you know it obviously means a lot to you, and it's exciting to get it out. But when you hear like me say, "Man, it's a heavy song, it's intense," you know, it seems like it's on a different level. Do you feel that way too? Like, do you feel like there is something different about this song compared to songs you've released in the past?
Yeah. I think it's hard for me to be truly objective when listening to my own music, because I don't know, it's too close at times. So some people will give me feedback or be like, "Oh, that sounds like a Nothing More song," and I'm like, "What does that sound like to you? Like, what do you mean when you say that?" Because I know what it sounds like to me, but so yeah, maybe I can't directly relate. But I can see maybe where you're coming from, you know, the riff. It's a little gentier, like touches of gent in there with the guitar riff.
Yeah,
And also, you know, our guitar player probably used a lower guitar than we typically use. I think it was an 8-string. And then, my vocals are probably more up front in the chorus and crisper than they've probably ever been. You know, I tried out like this, it's like a $20,000 microphone that we used. It was actually, fun fact, it was, I think Will Smith's microphone on Wild West or Getting Jiggy With It or some song like that.
Awesome. Yeah.
And maybe Beyonce, I think, used it for All the Single Ladies, or some pop hits have been sung on this microphone, this exact one. So I had access to it and I sang on it. So maybe there's some magic juju in that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it, man. I can totally hear the connection too between this and Getting Jiggy With It. So that's great. I love that, man. Well, I got to say too, we featured If It Doesn't Hurt in a sort of battle with another song on Loudwire Nights. We call it the Fight Club, and man, Nothing More dominated. I mean, it was just clear,
nice.
like the Loudwire audience, your fans, man, they made it very clear how excited they were for this song. So it's great,
nice.
man. And you know, I got to say too, as I see fans online talking about it over the last couple of months, you know, everyone's wondering, is this song pointing towards something bigger? And, you know, you've released a second song too. And so, you know, what's sort of on the horizon with the full length and all of that for Nothing More?
Yeah, so we have a new album coming out called Carnal, and it's kind of a extension conceptually from our last album, Spirits. I spent maybe, I don't know, around 1.5 to 2 years kind of in the background working on this meta personality test that I called the Spirits Test. If you go to spiritstest.com, you can find out which one of 8 spirit types you are. And I kind of compiled a bunch of symbology from a bunch of different lore and traditions and things, and created this culmination of ideas. And we kind of extended from that concept from the Spirits album to this album being the Carnal album. And if you're listening and you don't know what that word is, it's kind of an old biblical term that references kind of our animalistic nature. And this album's a lot heavier and more in your face, much more down to earth and immediate. It's less heady and conceptual. So we thought it'd be fitting to kind of lean into the carnal nature side of things with the artwork and with the interludes on the album. We still have the philosopher Alan Watts scattered throughout the album like we do on our previous works. So it's a beast of an album. I'm so excited. You know, us and our producer are on a thread, and we're always like, see you at the Grammys kind of thing, because we all feel so strongly about just every song on this album is just really good, really solid. So yeah, there's no dead weight on this one.
It's interesting, and we don't have to get too deep into it because it might get a little deep. But, you know, as I think about you and Mark connecting at church camp, and then, you know, here we are decades later talking about your Spirits Test and everything you've done with that, and this idea of our carnal nature and everything. I mean, has your faith or some type of that faith or anything like that kind of influenced you over those years? From, not that you're the same kid you were at church camp by any means, but, you know, has that faith kind of stuck with you or changed or evolved over the years?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a huge influence. I was raised pretty much in the church. I played drums in the youth band, you know, 2 or 3 times a week. So I was at church a lot. I was also, my parents were very active in, like, I had to memorize like passages of the Bible and learn, you know, up and down the Old Testament and the New Testament, you know. So I have a pretty extensive, you know, compared to the average person, I have a pretty extensive knowledge of the Bible and a lot of things surrounding it. And so I've absolutely taken that into my influences, you know, moving into the future. And, you know, like most kids growing up, when I was, you know, kind of going into that college age or whatever, I pretty much rejected everything I'd been taught, kind of wiped the slate clean, and was kind of like, okay, this is what I was taught and I was raised with. What do I actually think, like as an autonomous individual adult?
Yeah.
And then, I discarded some of the beliefs I had, and then I came full circle on other ones where I found them to be pretty true, and there was a lot of wisdom in some of the things I was taught. So, it's just a very deep reference point. Even when writing lyrics and concepts, it's a big part of my past and how I was raised. So it's fun to play with those concepts, even artistically, like I said, even using a word like carnal.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. Thanks for sharing that. And listeners have heard me talk about being a preacher's kid and all of that. So I totally, I totally relate to the whole, growing up in a certain way. And then when you get that freedom, as an 18-year-old or whatever, going to college, you got to figure it out for yourself, and that, like you said, that's discarding some stuff. It's maybe holding on to some other things, but really figuring out on your own and hitting some lows, hitting some highs, all of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. So you can definitely relate. And also I wanted to mention this earlier, but I'd noticed the Machine Shop hat. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We love the Machine Shop and all the people out there.
Absolutely legendary spot, man. So, talking about venues, right. And the heaviness of this new album, Carnal. This tour with Wage War, that's heavy for sure, man. The two of you bands, pairing up. Have you guys toured together before properly like this?
No, this is our first time.
Awesome.
We had a day off on a few tours ago, I think in Seattle. And I went with, two of my buddies to go watch Wage War. Sweet. I was like, they're in town. So I was in the audience just moshing and having a good time.
I love that, man. I love it. Well, and also with along with Wage War, you've got Veil of Maya and Sleep Theory, which it's just a killer lineup, man. And I think Sleep Theory, they're one of the most exciting new bands of the last year or so. So it's going to be a fun night from start to finish.
Yeah, it's going to be a heavy night and a fun night. And like you said, Sleep Theory is just such a great opener to have at this moment, because a lot of times when you have a 4-band bill, the first band either brings a lot of value or it's almost like, why do we even have a fourth band? Just because you never know. But with Sleep Theory, they've been really knocking it out of the park, and it seems like they're growing like crazy. So happy for them. Yeah,
for sure, man. I mean, if you're lucky enough to catch this tour in your town, or you got a road trip, it's going to be worth it. But make sure you get there for Sleep Theory, because it'll be a great night. But as I talk about Sleep Theory being one of the most exciting bands, new bands, Nothing More, man. It's not uncommon to hear people point to Nothing More as like the future of rock too, right? Like as one of the bands kind of waving the flag for rock and roll, thriving in rock and roll. And in fact, David Draymond, last year said as much in a tweet. Basically said that rock and roll isn't dead. Anybody who says that, they're wrong. Look at bands like Nothing More. When you hear that from a guy like David Draymond, who has seen a lot and he has seen bands come and go for sure, what do you think, man? Like, how does that make you feel?
I mean, it's a huge honor to hear it from someone like him. I mean, I hope I'm not letting the cat out of the bag here, but we have a little surprise feature with him coming up on this next album. I'll just say that.
Awesome.
But he, even just being able to work with him and text back and forth with him, and have that rapport is surreal, man. Because I remember being in middle school and having some older kid in high school like show me this music, and he's like, dude, check out this band Disturbed. And I was like, no way. It was when they were first coming out. And it blew my mind. So to I don't know, it's weird, man. It's weird to grow up and kind of be, now these people are my peers, but they were like my heroes as a kid. It's pretty cool.
I love that, man. Jonny Hawkins and Nothing More. Thank you so much for hanging tonight, man. I feel like we, are just scratching the surface and could be chatting for another couple of hours. I can't wait to catch you on the road with Wage War. Cannot wait to hear all that's to come with Nothing More, this new album, Carnal. We got to have you back on the show again, man.
Yeah, I would love to. Enjoy talking with you.
That wraps up this episode of Loudwire Nights on Demand. Stay caught up with everything happening in the world of rock and metal on the Loudwire app and at loudwire.com.